Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Club. This is the place everyday real estate investors gather to share their best stories, biggest insights, and favorite tactics to grow a portfolio of cash-flowing properties in today's market. Here's your host, Gabe Peterson.
All right. Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. Today we have Philip Vincent with us from Mom's House. This is going to be an episode about senior living. Love jumping into these niche strategies in real estate, and Vincent is an expert in the niche, and so I'm super excited to have him here. Philip, thank you very much for hopping on the show.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here. You know, everyone listening right now is like, senior living? I thought we were going to talk about real estate. And so we are. We're going to talk about real estate, guys. And we're going to talk about where I found in my 25 years where the best real estate, single-family home seller leads have come from is from this one source. So happy to be here. Happy to share a lot of knowledge with you guys today.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited to learn about it. They always talk about the silver tsunami, about how all of the baby boomers are getting to the point where they need assisted living, all those different types of senior housing. And so you're the man to talk to. I told you before we got on here, though, we like to start with stories. We like to hear how people got to where they are. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story? How'd you get started in real estate?
Yeah. So I was 20 years old and my cousin was telling me a story about a home builder that was going to buy a lot for $300,000. He was going to put $700,000 in the house. He was going to be all in for $1 million. He was going to sell it for 1.4. And my cousin is a framer. He's a framer for these high-end builders. And the story went, the neighbor across the street listed their old house for 1.4. And the builder said, well, dang, if that thing's worth 1.4, my new house should be worth 1.8. So he put it on the market and he sold it for 1.8 in the first week. And my cousin, and I was 20 years old at the time, my cousin said, wouldn't you hate that? And I said, hate what? He goes, making $800,000. And I go, no. I go, that's exactly the kind of problem I'm looking for in this life. And so I actually started off doing this business backwards, Gabe. I started off in development and new construction, and I worked my way back today, which is a wholesaler. So a lot of people in this world, it took me 25 years to get to where a lot of people start. And the thing I always want to tell everyone is you got to really be conscientious of who you are as a person, what you like to do. My favorite thing is to be belly to belly with a seller, getting to know them, getting to know their life story. And I'm a deal junkie. I love to buy a house. And the timeframes of new construction were a year to 2 years. Yeah. Where when you deal with a seller, especially when they have to move into senior living, like we'll talk about today, I'll meet them a couple times and I'll move on to the next one, and I'll spend a couple hours and move on to the next one. I'm a deal junkie, so I like as many deals as possible.
Nice. So you got started as a developer. That was the track you were on.
I built my first house when I was 20.
Nice. Wow.
And I'm 45 now, and so I think just a few years ago I realized I'm not a very good home builder, and it wasn't because of the quality of the product. It was that I didn't really like the process. I didn't like it. I really just wanted to pick out the colors.
Getting permits. Yeah.
And I'm like, this is so silly. What am I doing? And so building Mom's House at a national level, I don't have time to be a builder. And I think I'm a curious person. I like to read a lot. You said the word silver tsunami earlier, which tells me either you're going through that with your family or you like to read a lot. And I think when you guys hear this today, it's going to be like when they discovered peanut butter and chocolate and put it together. Like, well, yeah, those two things are awesome together. And senior living and real estate are that way. It's like, I use this analogy where the senior living industry is like a car dealership that doesn't buy the trade-in. And so what would happen today if car dealers just stopped buying trades? Would people still buy new cars? Sure. Would it slow down the process immensely? Yes. And that's what this industry's done. In fact, they will spend millions of dollars a month to get people to bring their families in on tours. And they say, what do we do with the house? What do we do with the stuff? They're like, go find a real estate agent and figure that out, like pushing them out the door. But when you figure that out, please come back and see us. Please come back and buy our housing after you figure out your housing. And so what Mom's House's mission is just to fix that, close that loop, be the home trading guarantee. As real estate people, there's 10 reasons why these are the best leads. I'd love to share those with you guys today. But when families are going through this, the number one thing you want with any seller is motivation. I don't have to convince these people of motivation at all. They have motivation at the highest level, and they're raise their hand and say, Phil, I need your service. And if you guys take anything away from this today, this podcast, if you just start working with people that need your service, your whole life changes when you only focus on people that need your service versus trying to find needles in haystacks.
Yep, absolutely. And on that note, take us to the needs specifically that you're talking about. I mean, senior housing obviously is super important, but what is it that Mom's House specializes in? What do you guys like? What kind of situations are you looking for? People who are in a big house and they need to downsize to a smaller one, or a house that has been retrofitted to fit someone who has, special needs, memory care, that kind of stuff?
Great question. And I would say, for any of my stats people or numbers people always say, Phil, what a great little niche you're in. And I'm like, wait till you hear the numbers. It's 7 out of 10 Americans over the age of 65 are going to live in some sort of assisted care before they pass away. And so what does Mom's House do? We unlock the equity out of their forever home. We buy that home so they can move on to that next chapter of life, which is predominantly assisted living and higher. And so at 55, I'm 45 years old. So in 10 years, I could live in a 55 and up community, right? That's not my client. I'm talking about the 82-year-old that's moving into assisted living, memory care, or what's called SNFs, skilled nursing. And so that's kind of our bread and butter. And those people, they only are going to live on a blended average around 28 months in those communities.
Interesting. Okay.
That's the average. And so we always hear about this transfer of wealth. And I don't think anyone listening is going to get that wealth. I think your parents are going to sell that house because they're going to live longer because of modern medicine, and the care is going to keep getting more expensive. That asset's going to be sold way before death. We kind of say we are in the pre-probate world where we're that 28 months beforehand, that last final chapter, we buy their forever home. And here's why. The number one thing the family needs is, where will mom get the best care? That's what anyone should care about. If me and you were brothers, that's the first thing we'd ask. Well, where's mom going to get the best care? And very quickly we'd be like, well, how the heck are we going to pay for it? And I'm going to go to Gabe, my more affluent brother, and say, hey, mom's pension's only $2,200 a month. The place we picked out is $6,000 a month. You're going to pay the difference, right, Gabe? And you're going to be like, yeah, for maybe a month or two. And then you're going to say immediately, we need to sell
Mom's House.
You're going to say it to me as the brother. You're like, I'll do this for like a month, but brother, I can't do this all the time. And they're like, well, what do we do with the house? What do we do with the stuff? We're like, man, that house is so full of stuff. What are we going to do? And sometimes the last straw, a lot of times, we're getting this bad news in waves. Dad passed away. I'm using stereotypes here. Dad passed away 8 years ago. Mom's been doing the best she can. She just fell down again. She's going to have a hip surgery. She's going to live. She's going to go into rehab for 3 weeks. And that's when we find out the doctor says, hey, sons, brothers, you and I, mom can't move back home anymore. She has to move into care. We're like, what? And so like this, we have to make a really hard decision really quickly. Is she going to live in Seattle? Is she going to live in St. Louis? Is she going to live where she lives? And what level of care does she need? We have no idea. We're out here trying to get all this information. And of course, the American way, do we pick out the cheapest place we can find, or we pick out, it's our mom. We pick out the nicest place we can afford. And very quickly we go, how are we going to pay for long-term care? How are we going to afford this? We need to sell that house. Everyone thinks they should call a real estate agent. And when they do, the real estate agent walks in and says, clean this place out and do this list of rehab so we can get top dollar. And I love that word. No one wants to not get top dollar. I want to get top dollar. You want to get top dollar. Everyone wants to get top dollar. The houses we're talking about, though, guys, they've lived in this house 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. It's common. I was with a guy, an 88-year-old, the other day. He bought his house new in 1962 for $15,000.
That's crazy.
And it was in good shape, right? I mean, it was in good shape. But that's the kind of person we're dealing with. I always say they've lived in these houses so long, Gabe, that mom got her new kitchen. She got her new kitchen in 1991 because she lived in it since the early 70s. And now that new kitchen is dated and needs to be replaced.
Yeah,
and
now they need a new one.
And so when that real estate agent shows up and says, clean this place out, that's a huge undertaking. Just on its surface, you got to clean it out before you could ever rehab it, right? We would all agree you can't rehab it until it's cleaned out. And then things like the cost versus value guide. If you guys don't know what that is, I'm glad you're listening today. I just changed your world. This for 20 plus years, the cost versus value guide will break down your specific metro area. It will tell you exactly what something costs versus what your value is you get back in the house. And very quickly you realize we should not be rehabbing anything. We're losing money on every item we do. In a time we need money, the last thing we want to do is throw good money after bad. And so Mom's House was born out of all of that to say, if you want to net the same amount and do it in 3 or 4 weeks, or you pick the date versus going that 6-month, 8-month journey with question marks, that's what they're comparing their two options.
Got you. Okay. So you guys really specialize in the transition between them going from their current home to an assisted living. You guys, do you own assisted living housing? Do you own the housing that they actually transition into, or are you guys really just focused on that transition period?
Just the transition period. So I work with thousands of communities nationwide. They trust us with their families because of our training. But I do not own the bricks and sticks that they're moving into. I'm a house guys. This is the real estate investment club. I buy real estate, single family real estate. And this is the lead source that I found to be the best ever in single family real estate is the senior living industry. So I do not own the bricks and sticks that they're landing in or moving into, but I buy the asset that they need to unlock that equity to move into care.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So I had thought, that reorients my question, my line of question here. So you guys are really you're focused in on a specific niche when it comes to people who want to sell their house. And so in that, I mean, you're talking to people who are going through a transition period. I'm sure you're often talking to not the owner of the house, but their son, their daughter, whoever is, dealing with their finances. How do you generally go about the negotiation? It's a difficult time for them. How do you go about landing on a price and getting them to see that this is the best decision for their whole family?
I like to look at every transaction as if I was one of their brothers and I was sitting there with my family going, what are our options? And when you're sitting on the same side of the table with the family and you're exploring all of your options, whether you sell it as is, whether you go on the journey of rehabbing it, whether you keep it as a rental, everything's on the table, right? We're looking at this as a family. I have found that families, when they don't, the average kid lives 400 miles away, so try to do a rehab. Yeah.
Wait, is that an actual statistic? It's
400 miles.
No shit. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so I don't want to rehab a house that's across St. Louis, let alone 400 miles. I couldn't imagine doing one in Cincinnati. And imagine a contractor. Do you think a contractor is going to give you a smoking deal knowing this will be the only time they're ever going to do a rehab for you? Of course not. They're going to kill you on the price. And so how do I go to daughter Judy? I say, I let them weigh their options on, if the house was retail ready, they should retail sell it.
Yeah.
I tell them that you pay this, let's list this house, right? Let's list it. That's the best thing we should do here. But a lot of times.
So wait, are you guys also brokers? So if they do want to do that, you can list it on the MLS.
Or I work with them. If somebody's in my program and they aren't a broker, that's fine. We just refer that out. But giving them that free advice as to what's the best thing for them. Some of them, even people that have retail ready houses, Gabe, you'd be surprised. They're like, I don't want to list it.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Just make me a fair offer here and I'll let you do that, right? People they trade convenience for equity all the time, especially in this. People want to know, like, when they fly into town that weekend because they have to find mom the best care because mom's going to stay in the city she's from. They need to fix all the problems and get back on the plane, go back to their lives as quickly as possible. And if you treat people with empathy, love, and kindness, the real estate is the secondary part. It's easy to buy the real estate when you can show them, hey, here are your options. Here's what you're going to net if you do this. Here's what you could net if you do that. And then let them make a decision on their own. And you'll be surprised how many people will take my option because they're smart enough to do the math going, hold on, if I net the same amount and I have to do all this work, who the heck wants to do all the work? No, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah. So when you guys are making these offers, is it always cash out? Do you ever offer seller financing, any kind of, creative financing on the back end?
Definitely. So in my 25 years, I've grown into this creative finance monster. Like, I left hundreds of deals on the tables, guys. I'm telling on myself right here. I've left hundreds and hundreds of deals on the table because I was 10 or 15 grand away from the seller.
Yeah.
And I'm kicking myself going, dang, I was so dumb. I could have paid him more and did better. And so I think there's this hybrid world right now we're going into where people want to unlock their equity. They don't want to take 50, 60, 70 cents on the dollar. They want to get closer to retail. But do they need all of that equity right now? So if we go to sell mom's house and my offer is 200 grand, and you buy it at 70 cents on the dollar minus repairs, I'm at 140 before I even get in the car and go to their house. If it needs 30 grand worth of work, I'm at 110. Yeah. Well, there's a world now I can pay them 110 cash and finance 90 grand. They finance 90 grand. They become the bank on the second loan with me. And now I've paid them full price and they did none of the work. They paid none of the commissions. It's really in life when you can find the true win-wins, and we get at that, to a family that maybe can't go get a normal loan, and we sell that house to them on terms. that I really think that's the future. And if you haven't embraced creative financing, you should.
Yeah,
it's powerful.
No, yeah, I mean, even on the commercial side, we do seller financing. I think it is the best win-win for everybody. Most of my deals that I've closed actually have been seller financing, just because so many times the seller wants a price that obviously doesn't make sense. But I'm like, hey man, if you give me terms, we can figure out ways that we can make this work. So,
and Gabe, with you focusing on commercial and focusing on storage, what would you say your average seller age is?
Surprisingly, well, probably in the 60s. I thought it was going to be higher, just because of so many mom and pops. But I've had the youngest one. He was 45 years old, I think.
Yeah. I would say it's going to be in the 60s, right? They're starting to think about retirement.
Yeah.
And a crazy stat that I heard the other day, which was just shocking to me, is that boomers own so many businesses, millions and millions of businesses, and this was the crazy stat, 75% of them will not sell. They will not sell them. They will just simply shut them down and retire. So the creative finance world for business owners over the age of 65 is it's a $1 trillion opportunity, not $1 billion opportunity. That's how big this is in our country.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we're here to talk about real estate, but I'm very interested in just that idea, because I recognize the opportunity that there are so many just regular businesses out there that it makes sense that once people get to the retirement age, they don't want to go through the whole sale process, and they're just ready to just shut the doors and end it. But if you can come in there and offer them anything for their business, I'm sure they'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll take a little bit of a little lump sum payment at the end of my career here, and we can call it good.
And for us entrepreneurs, you're getting rid of a ton of risk, because they already have a book of business, they already have a track record. See, we're starting a whole new podcast, right? Creative finance. When you get some entrepreneurs,
we're going back to real estate. We'll start a new podcast later.
If you don't think there's opportunity everywhere, you're just not looking.
Yeah, absolutely. So on Mom's House, what is your guys' exit strategy there? It sounds like you do a lot of wholesaling. Do you do any buy and holds there, or is it mostly wholesaling?
The most fun thing about having a lead source exclusive to you is that every house, there's a butt for every saddle, I like to say. And so, like in my own St. Louis market, I know by the zip code, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a rental. Oh, that's going to be a tear down. Oh, that's going to be a flip. And so I don't get wound up over exit strategies. I do it all. Me personally, I have my own buy box, and anyone that wants to do what I do as become a senior transition specialist, you get to have your buy box. If you want to buy and hold, great. But what happens when you get that lead and it's a land deal and it's not yours, or it's an apartment deal, or it's a storage unit, right? We all have our buy boxes, but when you have a lead source, really what we are is, if you think about it, guys, there's that opportunity of they need to sell their assets at that moment. And then whatever that asset is, you get to pick and choose which ones you want to hold on to or keep for yourself.
Yeah, and that was the thing that kind of caught me off guard when I first started doing getting into real estate, was once you start marketing to sellers, it's kind of outside of the single family realm, but into small multifamilies or any commercial, they're going to own a lot of other properties, and so you're probably going to, well, it's not like you won't probably, but there is a good chance that you will have more than one deal come out of any deal that you close. And I feel like that's something that we got to keep in mind. Well, even for single family, because people own multiple homes. And so when you're talking with someone, it's just, there's an opportunity there that it could snowball into something bigger.
Isn't that exciting, right? To know it's just not that one deal. And that word reoccurring in the single family game is really, really hard to find. You do one direct mail piece, it's over. I always ask the scary stat, anyone listening out here that does direct response marketing, if you stopped your marketing today, how long would it be before no one ever called you back again?
Yeah.
And most people say a week, and so if you're on that machine, you can never turn it off. And that's the scary part. And I think what's so fun about the senior living industry, guys, is that when you build the relationships with the right people the right way, I call it like an oil well. It continues to pump and pump and pump deals, families to me. I don't know the lifetime values of my relationships in senior living yet, because I'm still doing deals with people that I met in 2011.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
So super powerful. And that's the thing about, I want to flip everyone's brain. I'm looking for daughter Judy, that 65-year-old who's helping the 83-year-old mother. You can't buy a list of daughter Judys. And so in I wish you could, I'd be the first guy to buy it. They're the best leads ever. What I do is teach you how to go to the senior living industry, the right job titles, who are dealing with daughter Judy every day. And now I become a resource for them. And they say, you got to talk to Philip. He's the one. Oh, you don't know how are you going to pay for this? Like if you're an executive director or a finance director at a community, you can't let a broke person into your community. You can't. So they do what's called discovery, and they discover how you're going to pay. And they say, the daughter's in town. They're like, man, I got to get back to where I live, and we're going to meet with a real estate agent, the one my sister met that one time. They're figuring out how they're going to do this. And like, well, have you heard of Mom's House? Have you heard of Philip here in town? He'll come out and make you an offer on it the way it sits. He'll even help you with the stuff. Give me his number. And when that warm transfer of trust comes to me, guys, you could be halfway incompetent and still buy a lot of houses when there's that warm transfer of trust. Please be competent. Please don't be incompetent, especially with seniors. But the point is that they're the best leads I've ever found because they're motivated, because they're houses I can add value to. There's less competition. A warm referral, there's nothing better than a warm referral. Like they already know, like, and trust me because I'm coming from a real estate attorney or a senior living attorney. Leads are free. Have I mentioned that? These best leads they're free.
That was actually one of the questions that I was going to ask is how you generate these leads. I thought that you were doing direct marketing. So you're sending out mailers, but you're going out there to people who are interacting with seniors already, attorneys, people at senior care homes. Yeah. Well, I guess that wouldn't make sense, but
no, I am. So not the people that live there, but the people that run the community. So I'm in their CRM. So I'm part of you got to dream big, guys. I didn't dream this big when I set out to do this. I'm part of the senior living sales process. They click a button in their CRM and it pushes Bob Smith to me because Bob Smith needs my service. So they raise their hand and say, oh, I would love to have this guy come out and make me an offer on their house.
Interesting.
And so for me, I have to be really cognizant of who I let into my program. This is perfect program for some of you.
Right.
And then what's the difference? It's you have to love people and you have to love real estate, but you have to love people first. Yeah. And for some, especially men, we have a little less empathy in us organically. And so you have to learn how to learn the nature of senior living. That's what we've got the certification program, right, that we're going to talk about today. It teaches you how to do this the right way. And it's not by showing up as an investor, and it's not by showing up as a real estate agent. And you might go, oh crap, I'm both of those things. Cool. So am I. I'm an investor and I'm a real estate agent, but you show up as a senior transition specialist with the right wording so you can get behind the curtain where the water's warm. And I'll teach you how to build. I always say this jokingly. There's one night stands and there's 50-year marriages. And I teach you how to build 50-year marriages in the senior living industry. Like, a lot of real estate agents will hear about senior living. They'll show up at one networking event and do a card dump and be like, senior living doesn't work. You're like, no, you didn't do it the right way, real estate agent. You have to go build relationships. These people, what's cool about senior living is that they care a lot. And if you care a lot and have empathy and love real estate, a lot of people say, Phil, I've been waiting for a program like yours because I didn't want to do bandit signs. I didn't want to do cold calling. I didn't want to do text message blasting. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I didn't either. And so I'm glad I found this as well. This whole thing was born out of my curiosity and honestly, my laziness. I hated working bad leads. So I keep always thinking if me and you were having a beer together right now, I'd be like, where's the best lead source? Let's talk about it. Like, what do we know? What's working for you? What's not? And that's how this whole thing was born, is out of that curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could cut out, I swear it's like 95% of the leads that come into at least my business are not going to turn into anything. It's just those 5% that actually do. But if you can change that ratio even to 50-50, that would be so good. It would cut down so much wasted time on both people's sides. So it sounds like you guys got really good lead source, and that's really what it does come down to. Love to hear that. I want to hear more about the certification program that you guys got going on, but we're going to first jump into the quick question round because it looks like we just cut down or jumped into the last 5 minutes here. So it's time to jump into the quick question round. It starts with books or any form of education. Give me 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom and one for real estate.
Before we continue on with today's guest, I want to tell you guys about a community I'm launching on School to help investors like yourself grow your own portfolio. In this community, you'll get access to all the docs I use, all the systems I've built, everything I've used to grow my own portfolio, as well as instructions and guidance on how to get out there and find great deals, how to finance those deals, and then how to manage them for great returns. Since we're just launching it, the price will be set at a measly $20 per month, and whatever price you join at is the price you'll have for life. We will be increasing the price as the group grows, so if you're at all interested in growing your portfolio along other investors, now is the time to join. I will put the link somewhere in the bio or on our podcast website at therealestateinvestingclub.com, so if you are interested, head on over there. With that said, let's get back to the podcast.
General life wisdom and one for real estate. One of my favorite books is a book called The Big Rich, and it's about how the oil industry has changed our country and how the discovery of it, how it formed our country. And we are a company. We're just almost going out of business. But the oil industry and the wildcatters that it took to dig holes, knowing they would fail most of the time. Those true entrepreneurs that it was feast or famine, and a lot of times it was feast. It's just a phenomenal book. It's called The Big Rich. And then from a business perspective, I've got to give a shout out to Alex Ramosi, the $100 million offers. I mean, I've read it 4 or 5 times, and I follow him on socials. He's kind of, he brings it right, he brings it correct, and I agree with most of what he says. I don't have to agree with everything anybody says, but I agree with most of what he says, and I just like the way he presents. So, $100 million offers. He has a new book coming out too, and so if you like Alex's first book, you'll like his new ones coming out too.
Yeah, he's I've seen him on some social stuff. He's pretty good. His I think his what he wears is always kind of funny.
Yeah.
But
he stands out.
Man, yeah, exactly. All right, that's cool. So The Big Rich, I just picked it up looked it up on Amazon. That sounds like an interesting story. That's something I would jump into. All right, next question. This is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Philip who had no experience in real estate. He was just getting started. 20-year-old Philip. So way back when. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
We kind of talked about it earlier. Get into creative financing now. There's this once in a lifetime opportunity where every day on the phone, they bought their house for, I have a regular real estate business as well, not just seniors. They bought their house 2 years ago. Their interest rates were 3.7. They can't sell their current house, and they're looking for creative financing options. And what's cool about it, you don't have to buy the distressed property every time. You can actually buy really nice houses doing this way. And I think it's if I could talk to my younger self, I would have gotten into the creative financing side 25 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you could do a subject to with a low interest rate, that'd be pretty killer.
I do them every day.
There you go. All right, next question is about your business. The first 3 positions we hire for form the foundation of your business. So what were the first 3 positions you hired, and would you do it differently if you did it again today?
The word integrator is only 4% of the population. I'm what's called a maverick or a visionary, and they're also rare. So I don't need another visionary. And so if you're a visionary, it might be fun to go think you need another visionary as your partner. You do not.
Right.
Please don't do that. You can't do that. And so you want to find an integrator. And then they also say if you're starting a business, you are in sales until you hit 20 million in sales. You are the sales team. And so I don't know if those were quite my numbers, how we got there, but I am the product at this point. I am an active real estate investor. And so get really good at sales and what your message is, understanding who your avatar is. So sales, integrator, visionary would be the first 3 you need.
Nice. I love it. That's interesting. You are in sales until you hit 20 million. That's
what I've heard.
I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, I've seen it for myself. I try to, there's the conflicting message where you get with what was that guy? The guy that wrote the book, E-Myth Mastery, where he's talking about you want to work on your business, not in or wait, is it in your business, not on or in? Whatever. You get the idea. But it's also true that if you're just starting out, if you're building your business, then you are also the salesperson. That's a huge role that you have to take on. So very interesting. All right. Next question is about the US. It's a big place, a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro that you're most excited about investing in today.
I mean, to be a homer, I live in St. Louis. So that's the one when you build a nationwide company, the reason why I need people to be certified in my program nationwide is because I'll never know Albuquerque the way I know St. Louis.
Yeah.
And so if somebody calls me right now with 25 years experience, they say, Phil, it's in 63136 and it's on this street. I'm like, it's about $89,000 retail. Like I know my streets in St. Louis, and I don't have time in this life to do that in every city across the country. And so wherever your city is, wherever you live, wherever you invest, I should say, know your area. Don't let your seller know more than you do. Farm your area and know your area, and whatever your area is, be an expert at it. And for me, that's St. Louis.
Yep, makes sense. All right, this is a question specifically for you. It's about finding good deals. So what is your favorite way to generate leads?
We just talked about it for 25 minutes, guys. It's Mom's House. There's 10 reasons. I think I went over 6 of them. We stopped at free. It's an F word. It's fulfilling to do what I do. I see the weight come off their shoulders. It's fulfilling. If you're not fulfilled in your business, I can show you a way that there is. The market size is gigantic. We talked about that 7 out of 10 Americans over the age of 65. To be blunt, if you don't take this seriously, what I'm offering today, you will be buying houses from someone that did over the next 15 years. I'm bold to say that this is real estate. And then the reoccurring side of it. When you build a relationship, I always say 20 is plenty. And what the heck does that mean? I'll show you how to build relationships with 50, 60 people, 100 people. But then in the end, 20 people, if they know, like, and trust you. It's easy to be known. It's harder to be liked. And we're shooting for trust, but I'll get you there very quickly. If you just have 20 people that know, like, and trust you, you can have a business where the leads chase you.
Nice. I like that. All right. Next question is about mentors. None of us are islands. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. So who is one mentor who's contributed significantly to your career today?
I would say a gentleman named Brian Schroeder. Back in 2011, when we were talking about the stereotype of who our typical seller was, is where we kind of came up with that whole story about dad died 8 years ago. Mom's been doing the best she can. Now she has to move because she's being told. And he said to me, you should go do that. And I said, do what? He says, you should go to senior living communities and you should go network. You're perfect for that. And guys, I walked in and I did it wrong. I walked in with my big personality. I'm an investor and I buy houses from old people that are going into nursing homes. They're like, whoa, buddy, pump the brakes. You said at least 3 things that are wrong, bad there. And so I had to learn how to talk the talk of senior living. And with my certification, what I do there is I'm showing you my 10 years plus now of all my mistakes. So that way you can do it right the first time. And why is that important? Imagine messing up one relationship that could give you a deal every 2 months from now on.
Yeah.
What is that worth to you?
Yep. Learn from those who've gone before. Sounds like you've definitely gone before, and you've got to make those mistakes at the beginning. But if you can learn from somebody who's already made those mistakes and learn from them, that's the key there. That brings us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot of good advice. I'm sure people want to learn more about your strategy, more about the certification program. Where can they find you, and what do you guys offer?
Sure. So if you're interested in what we talked about today, go to momshouse.com/REI club. momshouse.com/REI club. I've got a certification. It's not a crazy price. You're not going to have to go get a mortgage for this. Go take a look at it. I offer you a certification to be part of our program. Remember how I talked about the industry trust me with their families? We can say the word leads on this podcast, but they're families, they're humans, they're people. And so why they trust me with this is because of how intense this training is. We have a couple hundred Google reviews. I think we're a 4.9. We're through the roof. This training is crazy valuable. And I want to share it with you guys. I need people all across the country. I have a leaky bucket. I have families coming in across the country, and I don't have coverage for all of them. And so I want to find the right people that would want to do what I do. And guys, I love what I do. If it doesn't come across in my passion, this was it. This was like, I've got something that's blue ocean. I'm the only one that has this training or has this background, and it is real estate for the next 15 years. You said the word earlier, silver tsunami. It's so big, our own government doesn't know what to do about it. For the first time ever, there's more people over the age of 65 than less than 18, and that's not good. That is not a good thing. And so it's going to get worse. Just because I've been doing it for 12 years, 2023 was the first year of the oldest boomers starting to hit. And so that wave is going to be here for the next 15 years.
Interesting. I did not know that. So repeat that statistic. There's more people over 65 that are under 18
than there is under 18.
Huh. That's
so
crazy.
If you look at our gross domestic product, it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio so everyone over 65, they usually need one caretaker per person over 65. Same way for under 18. You're bringing children into the world, right? For every child, we need one person for each person under 18, whether that's teachers, all these things. So you take the under 18 plus the one, so it almost doubles.
Yeah.
So now you're almost left with, out of the 100% of the people, only 20%, me and you, brother, right in the middle, we're responsible for the entire gross domestic product of our country because everyone else is servicing the old or the young.
Interesting. That's pretty crazy.
And scary. But that's the opportunity, guys. Here, I'll leave you with this. There's $10 trillion in real estate owned by boomers and their parents. 10 trillion. That's a lot of zeros.
Big number.
They own it outright. Yeah, that's what we're buying. We're tapping into that or buying that equity.
All right, man. I love it. All right. So if you guys want to get involved, this does sound like something, or if this sounds like something that you really want to get involved in, the URL is momshouse.com/REI club. I'm going to put that link in the show notes. All you got to do is just click a little more in the description. It'll pull down the full description. In there is Philip's link. So Philip, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. And for everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. And if you guys want to support the show, all we ask is you give us a like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. All right, before I officially sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. If you're interested in becoming a passive investor in one of my deals, my own company, Kaizen Properties, is looking for capital partners for our upcoming projects. We invest in what are known as recession-resistant assets, mainly self-storage facilities, mobile home and RV parks, and industrial properties. If you're interested in investing and would like to learn a little bit more about my company, our investing criteria, and some of the previous projects we've done, go to the Real Estate Investing Club podcast at therealestateinvestingclub.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Click on the Invest With Us button. That'll pop up the investor form. Fill that out, and we will reach back out to you as soon as we can. Or if you prefer a little bit more of a personal touch, you can reach out to me at Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. So really, that is it. Again, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys during this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.